Ma'ariv Rabbi Side, once again, your humble host, Yehuda Levin. This is a very, very special program. I have a very special guest here. We're going to learn a lot tonight. Ma'ariv Rabbi Side. This is our Pashas Mishpotim program. The title of the program is 11 at 11, heard each and every Thursday evening, Leil Shishi, from 11 to 12 o'clock. And it could also be seen on YouTube. The programs are archived. The channel is 11, Levin, the numeral 11, and you'll be able to see the programs. Ma'ariv Rabbi Side, please take a pen and hand so that later on, in case we happen to give a phone number, you might even be able to be Kohen Olam Haba because you write down the phone number and you'll take an action. And by doing an action, you'll be shaking the very branches all the way up of the tree of the Eitz Chaim, all the way up to the heavens, Rabbi Say. You'll have a profound spiritual effect. Before we get to our guest, I want to dedicate tonight's program, which is basically called the continuation of the Kalisch Aguda Nakba, the tragedy, as the Arabs would call it, the Nakba, and the ongoing catastrophe of the Chilul Hashem. A week later of not only Kalisch, Mark Kalisch, who is leaving a very, very negative mark on Klal Yisrael in a very, very terrible way to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people by now, but Agudas Yisrael's taciturnity, their lack of loquaciousness, the opposite of their constant tweeterai for every chanifa, to every low-life politician, they have to this, but when it comes to a Mishun de Kechil Hashem, that we're going to soon hear that the Goyin HaGodol, one of the Roshei Moyetzes Gedolei HaTorah, Shmuel Kamenetsky, said clearly to this gentleman, Reb Shlomo Winter, a great Torah activist, he told him, what's Shabbos, it's a bizayin and achil Hashem, and yet Agudas Yisrael has done nothing. So therefore, we want to start off by seeing the positive. From the extent of the Chilul Hashem, we understand the Kiddush Hashem that can emerge. So therefore, I would like to do something that I used to do, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to sing a cappella for a few seconds. The first part of the song, Ana Avda de Kutsha Brichu, and I'm dedicating it to Mark Kalisch and his family. They're under attack. People want to throw Mark's kids out of yeshiva. He said so in his own email. I'm the one who's suffering. So I feel bad for him. So I want to sing for all the years to give him a chizik. Mark needs a big chizik now. He's springing around to Springfield, back, forth. He doesn't know exactly what to do, how to handle it. He has to speak to his PR people. So I want to give him some chizik. So we're going to sing, dedicated to Kalisch and his family, Mark Kalisch, and Abdul Kutsha Brichu. We're also going to sing it that the tshuka, the cheshik, the rotzen that we have in singing Abdul Kutsha Brichu should spiritually invigorate the Gedolei Yisrael, the Moyetzes Gedolei HaTorah. Von Agudas Yisrael mit alle der Rabbonim, the Nesius, and I feel with the Askonim, that they should all taka feel and share our fervor of Abdul Kutsha Brichu. So without further ado, I already made a bracha before the program started. I want to say L'chaim Rabbi Say. I drink Coke Zero because when I drink Coke Zero, I'm having Efes built to Mashiach. Zero means Efes, no Hashem, is in zeros. Mark is a zero. Aguda is a zero. Everybody's a zero. No, the Rebbeinu Shloim. Rabbi Say. I know, Avidah the Kodesh Abarichu, I know, Avidah the Kodesh Abarichu, I know, Mark, I want to be Avidah the Kodesh Abarichu, I know, Mark, I want to hit the schmutz out of the park. I want to return to Hashem. I'm so embarrassed of the Chilul Hashem. I want to stop aborting babies. I'll never go again to a Roe versus Wade Planned Parenthood celebration. It's terrible. It's killing babies like in a concentration camp. I can't stand the murder. My name is Mark, the lobbyist. I know. Avidah the Kodesh Abarichu is sitting in the conference room in Aguda going boo-hoo. How have we let the inmates run the asylum? We're so busy making shas a grois a siyum. But meanwhile, Chilul Hashem, We have nothing to say for weeks on end. Where's our Torah hashkafa? Oh no, the Kalisch Avarich. We dedicate this song to Aguda. Chazor b'ach boishnu mikol ha'am. We're begging Agudas Yisrael. Fire Kalisch if he doesn't have the seichel to resign. That's what's going on, Rabbi Say. Entertaining? Yes, absolutely. But we don't want this kind of entertainment. So now let's get to our guest. Reb Shlomo Winter is a chaver of mine for approximately a quarter of a century. He's a balabos. He was a Talmud in Philadelphia Yeshiva. And not only that, he's a Talmud of a Talmud. His father, who sat and learned the Seif Yamav, Kol Hayom V'Chol Halayla, Allah Shalom, who I knew him, he would sit in Borough Park in Daki, in Derech Chaim, and he would learn. He was from the first 8 Talmidim in the Philadelphia Yeshiva. So Reb Shlomo is Oduk, he's gebunden, and he called up his Rosh Yeshiva. He's an activist, and he takes it very seriously when he sees this thing. So tutem vei pashit. I've had years and years of conversations with him, and he'd call me up and say, "How's this? How is that?" Etc. Etc. And he's a different type of person. He takes action. So when the lesbian goes to Garden of Eden, Reb Shlomo doesn't just cluck. He goes and he speaks to the owner. He sits across from him at the table in Garden of Eden. He says, "How you talking? How you doing this stuff?" And when somebody does something wrong, like Yechiel Mark Kalisch, so he picks up the phone, he calls him up, he leaves him a message, I want to speak to you, he sends him an email, whatever he does, and Kalisch calls him back. We're going to discuss that. But the first thing he did was, like Ehrlich Ben Torah in pain, he picked up the phone, Motzi Shabbos Kodesh, and he called his Rebbe, Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky. So welcome, Reb Shlomo Winter, Shalom Aleichem. Tell me, Reb Shlomo, when you called up Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky, remember, we were taught from the time that we used to go to 5th grade, in the 6th grade, 4th grade in Yeshiva Ketana. At those days in recess, we used to flip baseball cards. But they used to tell us, what do you have to flip baseball cards for? You should have Gedolim cards. So they started the thing with Gedolim cards. And they taught us, you should know the Gedolim are the ones who leave Klal Yisrael. They have Das Torah. And they said, where do you know the Gedolim, what they're doing? We said, there's something called Aguda Yisrael. And there's Das Torah, there's a Matzis Gedol Torah. And you can be sure when it's from Aguda Yisrael, we were taught from kids with our mother's milk. Yeah. We were taught, is that correct? Yeah. We were all taught like that. Now, I want to ask you a question. So you called one of the leaders of the Matzis Gedol Torah, Shmuel Kamenetsky, from the Ziknei Hador, a man in his 90s. So and you told Rosh Yeshiva, you assumed that the Rosh Yeshiva probably knew. Did the Rosh Yeshiva know who Kalisch was?
You know who
Kalisch was. Kalisch worked for 12 years for Aguda, and then the last 4 years he was getting paid privately by them in terms of to lobby privately. And he was a member of the Board of Trustees. He's vice president of governmental affairs. He built up for Aguda tremendous cover. He built up these lobbyists in different parts of the country. Savadi knew him. Now, did he know that Kalisch became a representative?
I didn't specifically ask him that.
So it's a suffix. Well, other words, it's a suffix if he even knew that. But now, when you told him that what Kalisch had done, that on Sunday night, right after being sworn in, he was ready. He had 20 minutes later, 20 minutes after he got sworn in, Aguda Yisrael Motzen, his replacement from Indiana, wherever he's from, in the Cleveland, wherever he is, via Valgitzach. Motzen already was Moitzah David Toiv, and he put a big congratulatory thing. Congratulations. That means he didn't do that in 20 minutes. It was prepared in advance. That means we're B'nai Torah, we can be diet, that maybe prepared on Sunday, maybe even prepared it before Shabbos. So I want to ask you a question. If Kalisch was going through a really serious thing, and it says in the media that there were 20 candidates, right? So how did Kalisch know from 20 candidates? How did Aguda Yisrael know to prepare in advance? See, if I would have actually graduated high school, not gotten a GED, and I would not have to speak English, my vocabulary is very poor, I could have been a lawyer. So I'm practicing now. So how could Aguda Motzen have had this Ashgacha protest to prepare such a beautiful law congratulatory thing? But he's not the only one. It's possible that Hamodia for the Haini town, Hamodia, not Mod, Hamodia. How the next day did they already have an article in there? And how by Tuesday did Yater have him on the front page? And Mishpacha, that means it was in the big. That means we can probably infer that the whole process on Sunday was a big litzonis, And that's why it says in the media, this is, Rabbi said, all part of the scandal, of the garbage, of the chazarai that surrounds Kalisch. It's fair. It's backroom politics, and it's stinky. In other words, like this, there's nothing wrong. He got a deal. He got a job. Gewaldig. We should all be klatching for him. He's so chitre. He got the job. He pulled it off. But there's a problem. Do you know what the problem is? The Cook County newspaper that I'm going to be putting out all over, because they did an interview with me. He's sending me a bunch of interviews and writings about Kalisch that his name is Kennedy. And Kennedy says, in a very nice idle guy, he says, it stinks. He didn't use those words. He says, the fix was in over here. He's saying the fix is in. So when the Gentile media is looking and they say that swarmy Jew, the fix is in, it's a chilul oin v'noira. Now, of course, the Haimi Haredi media doesn't know it, doesn't care. They just go along with it. But since he said it, so in other words, the whole bus is the basis of the way Kalisch got the job. This Gentile, for one, understood the fix was in. It's a big phony thing with the 20 people. And who knows how long in advance they decided. So I want to get back to Shmuel Kamenetsky. Now that we established that it smelled rotten in Denmark before he spoke about, I'm pro-gay, I'm pro-this, I want to embrace all the ladies who have abortions, we have to fight the Trump Supreme Court, all of the kluge Sachen that was said in his name, whether he said them, ben b'choketz, ben b'chaloim, you'll have in mind. Kalisch, when you speak about choketz v'chaloim and matinedas, you'll have in mind all the shtusim that you did over here, whether you said it, he wrote it, I didn't mean it, I was careless. This is the judgment of the great lobbyists that we should trust to represent Klal Yisrael. Moed Rabbi say the second l'chaim already. I drink to Simcha Kalisch, and not Simcha. I keep calling him Simcha because I know a big Talmud Chacham named Simcha. I drink to Mark Kalisch. I drink to Mark Kalisch that he should get back on the mark again. He should come back onto the mark. So here, now the shaila is like this: when you told Rav Shmuel what it said in those newspapers. You told him that he went to a celebration of Rovis Wade in Planned Parenthood, the Avia Vaisatuma, where they killed 350,000 babies a year, most of them paid for by our taxpayer dollars with Tzicha. And they're celebrating Roe versus Wade. And this is where he went 2 days afterwards. He didn't even go to Springfield. And this is Erev. Later that night, he left there to go to a plane to Eretz Yisrael. To get advice from the Gedolim and brachas. That's what he said. So I'm sure he told Rav Chaim, you know, I was just Rav Chaim, ich hab gewinnt heint bei Planned Parenthood. Was ist Planned Parenthood? Sie haben in der Millionen Uborim, 60 Millionen, sie haben gehargert in den letzten 40 Jahren. 60, Kacke, was hat die gesagt? Die hat gesagt, dass wir sind ein Kegen, you said that we're against No, they were telling me about the sonograms. He explained to you, what was he doing there? Tell me, what was he doing?
He said that, you know, the Planned Parenthood officials that he met were explaining to him how much, that they do so much other things besides abortion to help women. You know, he didn't say specifically what, but he said, you know, there's a lot of health care that they provide them with. I'm assuming sonograms and all these kinds
of things. Did he tell what his response was?
It sounded from Rabbi Kalisch that Rabbi Kalisch felt like he got educated, like he was sort of impressed that they do all these other wonderful things for women.
I hear.
But I told him that, you know, Planned Parenthood is the biggest butcher of babies in the world.
Right. Was he surprised?
No, he didn't deny it. But I asked him, well, did you tell your displeasure to the Planned Parenthood people about all the
Jewish viewpoint?
And he said, no, he didn't. You know,
no, he didn't. No. In other words, he sat. Imagine this: you're sitting in a killing center where they've killed 350,000 babies in the last year. You're sitting there with the Avia voice, and they tell you if a lady wants to keep the baby, we try to help her. We give her a sonogram. And you don't say anything, but you killed 350,000 babies. You know the Jewish position is, you say, is this the person? Is this the behemoth, al regel shtayim, the ox, the fer, the chamor, that you want representing it? So I want to ask you a question. he's obviously a very talented person if he moved into a situation. So it can't be a lack of seichel. Not only that, I'll bet you he finished Shas a few times. You know why? Because he was a kollel guy in Cincinnati for 2 or 3 years. He got smicha in Skopje. And then he went to work for Aguda, and it says in his interview, Halavayev mir gesagt, he gets up 4 o'clock in the morning and he learns the daf. Now, probably he's an Agudist, 16 years, he's probably gone through Shas at least 2 times. So this is a guy who's durch and durch gelernt, and he's very intelligent, much smarter than me. I couldn't do the things he's doing. So I want to ask you a question. He doesn't know he doesn't know that he was going down the anniversary of Roe versus Wade. He doesn't know what the Aguda position is on abortion. Like what happened? How do you understand a person who could work for 16 years for Aguda, come out of a kollel, have a title rabbi, be a chazan in the shul, and you understand with the black hat with the ganze Gestell, and not say a word, epis something. How do you understand? What kind of, where are the principles of this person? That's what I'm asking you. I mean, without just... What do you say?
What do I think?
What
do I think? You mean?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. It sounds. I can't know exactly what's going on in his mind, but if I was to guess,
yeah,
I'm assuming that perhaps he feels amongst the people that he is miyayitz with that getting into this critical position where he could sort of quote unquote do so much for Klal Yisrael, specifically, I guess, getting funding and school choice. That is so valuable that he's not supposed to rock.
Wait. Now the Lipa de Tshuva, we could sing his songs that otherwise were a little bit atrocious. A gelt, we gotta get the gelt. As long as we get the gelt, the rest doesn't count. So you're saying a portion that took you. So in other words, it's gelt iba God.
He doesn't want to rock the boat.
He doesn't want to rock the boat. Yeah, I hear. So you think, when you have an aide who helps a person who's not well or an elderly person, they have to go to orientation. They have to take hours of this. So I assume that to become a lobbyist, not good, even the lowest level lobbyist, you have to get orientation and chinuch. They have to tell you. So he probably absorbed this kind of an attitude. He came up with this chiddush that's geltu ba'alis, and we don't even have to speak about morality when we're dealing with the biggest immorality. Not stam in the street. We're speaking to Aviyah voice. What about the connotations that that they're saying? See, we can take a right-wing Orthodox Jewish lobbyist for years, and we can tell him Ashtusim, and he sits there like a bobble-headed clown. Oh, it's very nice. What about that? So let's get back to Shmuel Kamenetsky. So when you told Shmuel Kamenetsky what he did, going to the Roe versus Wade celebration, you also told him about the Politico, where he says yes. And it's in quotes that he supports.
With Rabbi Kamenetsky, I basically read the quotes from the Tribune for the most part.
For the Tribune, which is the worst.
Which was the worst stuff.
Let me discuss it. In the Tribune, it said like that. In the eyes of God, everybody has civil rights and is equal. And therefore, marriage equality has to be defended, especially in light of he didn't say the word evil, but the conversation, the evil Trump Supreme Court that might actually overturn Roe versus Wade. So therefore he has to, and he said he's a foot soldier in the effort to make sure if they overturn in the evil Trump Supreme Court on a federal level to ensconce the baby killing in the Illinois sin. He's a foot soldier. Yeah, okay? All right. Now, what did Shmuel say to this?
He said it's a bezoyan and a terrible chil Hashem.
Now, how long were you on the phone with him?
It was about 7-8 minutes.
Now, did he give you any indication whatsoever, Shlomo, you should continue to do what you're doing, or I'm going to speak to people about it, or this or that? In other words, it's chil Hashem, good. So he does and you know. And now, by the way, you spoke to him Motzi Shabbos. Mm-hmm. It's now Wednesday night. So the question is, what do you think? I mean, what would you think? What's happening from a leader's Torah between Motzei Shabbos and today?
Well, he advised me to call Rabbi Zweibel about this, which he was also an Eretz Yisrael, so I couldn't get to him right away. But by the time I actually spoke to Rabbi Zweibel, because I guess Reb Shmuel's idea was that once I speak to Rabbi Zweibel and tell him that I spoke to Shmuel, that would sort of get the ball rolling, in terms of any action. But it turns out that within a day or two, and even before Rabbi Zweibel got back from Israel, there was this email that was going around to several people from Rabbi Kalisch in which he said that this whole Tribune piece was sort of like a mistake, which you alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
So that sort of watered things, cooled things down a little bit. Once that was out there.
Basically, to cut to the chase, Rabbi Zweig-Bell basically told you, listen, he's already withdrawn from that. He already gave an explanation, so everybody can live happily ever after. Now finished. It's Rabbi Zweig-Bell, an edel fine asking that I know for 30 years. But did Rabbi Zweig-Bell show any discomfort with the extent of the quotes that was unfortunate? Did Rabbi Zweig-Bell address that it wasn't only the Tribune, but it was a problem with Politico and Chicago Sun-Times and Jewish Telegraphic Agency. So therefore, even if the Tribune was fallacious, it was made up, it was totally manufactured, but the basic connotations of what it said there, if not the jargon and the terminology, but his embrace and respect for Roe versus Wade, the law of the land, and the gay marriage, that there's certain aspects of gay marriage that have to be defended. So, in other words, that didn't bother Rabbi Zweig-Bell at all, that he wasn't responding, nothing has to be done.
Well, he said that as far as the Tribune, the Tribune quotes, that he believes that, that's something that Mr. Kalisch would have to clean up in his own time. However, I did ask Rabbi Zweig-Bell about the propriety of a from a well-known person connected with Aguda going to a Roe v. Wade anniversary. He indicated that, well, as an elected official, he has to do certain things.
He has to do it.
And
in other words, if
he wasn't going to get too exercised about it.
Now, so now the time has come for me to publicly say, I have to do it. I can't, Rabbi, I can't sit by idly. So we have golden oldies. We have golden oldies, meaning, Rabbi Sai, I want to ask this question. I'm going to get myself in a lot of trouble. It's very insulting. So let's ask a question. Who is doing a worse thing? Kalisch, who goes to Planned Parenthood, and he doesn't say a word about Kedusha, about Ritzicha, about anything else. You see, the Goyim are going crazy now, because Cuomo passed this abortion thing that until the moment of dilation, you could abort a baby for no reason. And if the baby survives a botched abortion, you could withhold, you could be Samed al Dam Bonecha, and you don't have to give it medical treatment. And now in Virginia today, they just tried in the last 2 days to pass the same thing. So all over the country, they're replaying that the governor said of Virginia to outdo Cuomo. If the baby is laying there on the table to survive the botched abortion, they'll have a meeting. The mother and the doctor will decide whether to save the baby. You understand? If this isn't akin to Nazism, I don't know what is. So now, which is worse? Kalisch that wasn't Moicha when he was by Planned Parenthood, or the executive director, the exact Yerush, the top banana Yerush from Rabbi Shera, that he very casually says, an elected official. He says it with that Edelkeit. What do you want? You have to do it. There's certain things. In other words, it says somewhere in the book of elected officials that you have to go to the killing fields where they baby killers, the infanticide people, and you have to do it.
I just want to clarify.
Which is worse?
It's not that Rabbi Zweig-Bell said that he personally gives the okay to do that.
Yeah.
He indicated that he understood that an elected official.
1 second. I go to Landau's, and a lot of times they have the speakers on Shabbos. The big Talmidei Chacham, you have official Shachter, and you have Rabbi Tuvia Leaf, Moshe Tuvia Leaf, my friend. And then you have Rabbi David Zweig-Bell. Now, I'm sure as a good person, he's been Messiah Shas 4 or 5, 6 times, okay? And he's a big Ben Torah. He's a Talmid Chacham. So in other words, if you're sitting in the Beis Hamikdash, you should say such a flipping, stupid, jackass, chamor svara. That's what you say. You say, well, maybe sometimes people have to do it. If he was sitting in front of Moshe Feinstein, he would tell him such a claptrap. So he looks at you, what are you, a chamor? We're not people. We have to swallow this stupidity. I'm not supposed to say anything. Rabbi Zweig-Bell, I'm telling you clearly, you don't fix up this kind of garbage. The gewaltige things that you're doing, but you're making yourself trouble, Rabbi Zweig-Bell. There's no reason to talk like shtusim. Now, this is a golden oldie. I had a friend once. One time, there was a lesbian, Christine Quinn, who was the speaker of the city council. She decided she wanted to run for mayor. And it was 3/4 of a year before the election. You know the first place she went to raise money? It was in the singer's house, the famous singer, on East 31st Street, right around the corner from my shul. And there was a leader from Ohel. There were several leaders from Aguda, maybe a handful of people. They raised for her $60,000 of Yiddish geld. Now, somebody went and called up Rabbi Zoibel and said, Rabbi Zoibel, wie kann es sein? How could it be? David Seifman wrote a whole page on Sunday in the New York Post, a whole page. He says, I don't get it. The Orthodox Jews supposed to be against it. She's a lesbian who's marriage. She has a partner. They're waiting to get married. She's running for mayor. And the first ones are the ultra-Orthodox Jews in Brooklyn to raise for $60,000. And then further in the column, he says, oh, I see here that in her disbursements, she gave $100,000 to Aguda Yisrael. She did this. So he says, now I understand the whole thing, Siphon. So a guy, a Tamim person, called up Rabbi Zoibel, and he said to him, Rabbi Zoibel, did you know there was a fundraiser for the lesbian? And they said the money and this and that. You know what Rabbi Zoibel answered? He answered a very good answer. He said, oh, I'm very, very happy to learn that we're on top of things. We got to be prepared for any eventuality, and maybe this lesbian will be mayor. So we got to do what we got to do. So let's just figure out if the lesbian would have said that she's for adultery, or if she would have said, remember this Rabbi David Zoibel who recently made the professional video, which he managed to smile and make a joke about, even though it's Sakon for Kalisch is all about the Gezerus against the yeshiva. So he said, we won't sell out for a pot of lentils, like we don't sell out for money. How does that jive with what he said about the lesbian speaker? Now, Rabbi Zoibel learned Shas 5 times. I never was Messiah Masechta. I did Masechta Megillah. I'm a big Amoritz. But I just don't understand. What kind of lunacy is running the asylum? The Gedolim are informed. There should have been an emergency meeting. Zechil Hashem. Politico is read by almost every single political talking head and pundit, thousands around the country, when they want to know what's hot politically and what to discuss on talk radio and the 2,000-3,000 stations that there are on the things from Meet the Press all the way down to local TV shows. They look at Politico. So you know how many people read this article in Politico? So every minute's not fixed up. Yeah. So with all due respect, I don't think the problem is Kalisch. Kalisch is a product of a corrupt, whacked out system that has become jaded and insensitive to a feeling. So when it comes to yeshivas, all of a sudden, that's like the last bastion, we get all from and we say on the video, we won't sell out for a pot of porridge. But you've been selling out for years, and you're still making excuses for Kalisch. What's going on here? That's why there were people already talking about there has to be a new organization, a new Aguda Yisrael. So we've now discussed what Kalisch says. So now Kalisch told you, did he say, he said he's not going to issue a retraction.
Right, he's not.
Why not? For what reason? How did he decide that?
He got advice from a professional public relations person.
Stop. That's it. So in other words, he didn't consult. In other words, did he express, I feel terrible that I quote such a Hashem. Did those words ever come out?
He did say he feels pain by the fact that he was misrepresented in this Tribune article that he sort of signed off on without reading it.
But wait a second. Yeah. That's not so much pain as he feels like a chamor, a jackass. I mean, because in other words, if you're the lobbyist who's now been elevated to being a representative in the state government, and you could just exercise such poor judgment, not even to look at something, if he's telling the truth. It's a suffix. He might be 100% telling the truth. He might be stretching it. He might be elasticizing it. But if it's true, at the very least, it shows that he's a chamad, that he could be played by his friend, the reporter, who was a shtickle PR guy, or the guy he cut the deal with, Lang, who was predecessor, who had to resign because he, the big supporter of all the liberal stuff for Nashim, including pushing the ERA in the state of Illinois recently, which can make tremendous service for Yidden. You know what's going to be? There will be all mixed bathrooms. Women will be drafted into the army. The sakana of ERA is Oin V'Noira, and he's the chief guy who's pushing it. And Hashem made it's always the chief lowlifes who represent the densely populated Orthodox Jewry. When I ran against Solas in '84, he represented Borough Park and Williamsburg, the biggest Haredi community in the world outside of Bnei Brak Yerushalayim. Solas, ultra liberal. He was making jokes that the Jews thought Zimbabwe was a form of ice cream, Haagen-Dazs ice cream. In other words, I can do what I want. Same thing here. Ira Silverstein is the representative of this district, states, and he lost in a primary because he was found guilty of sexual improprieties. So he lost in a primary. By the way, you know his wife is running for his seat. So you know what? Guess who donated $2,000 to Ira Silverstein's wife? You have any idea? Could you guess? S4, the organization that founded the lobbying organization by Simcha Kalisch. In other words, by Mark Kalisch. In other words, Mark Kalisch gave $2,000 in two separate 1,000 and 1,000. He gave to Mrs. Deborah that she should take over her husband's seat. Did you know that the media reported that Silverstein, I don't even know if he was by the interviews on Sunday, he handed his proxy. That means there were three people to vote. Pat Conner, like the city councilman, is called the alderman, the state senator, Ira Silverstein, and Lang, who was the main guy, who was the representative who was being replaced. So Silverstein handed his proxy, his rishayon, his rishus, his yipui koyach, they call it in Lashon HaKodesh, his power of attorney to vote. One of the three votes, he handed it to Lang, which meant what? Lang was zicha with Kalisch. He said, I'm not going to even stay here. Whatever it is, here's my proxy. I'm going to go and eat bagels and cream cheese with my wife. Okay? You understand? So that's what they did. And the Goyish papers are saying, look at this deal here. He gives him the proxy. The whole thing was a spiel. It was a done deal. They could interview 50 ladies, not just 20 candidates. You understand? So how does it make you feel when the Orthodox Jew and the secular papers, the political reporters are reporting the underhanded, snarky, swarmy type of, this is for a Chuck Schumer, this is for a Haredi Yid. Is this the way to obtain office? And what about the fact, Reb Shlomo, did Rev Kamenetsky understand that this is not just the Tribune? This was 4 different interviews, and in each of 3 out of the 4, you had quotes from Lang assuring everybody that he made it perfectly clear, and he had a clear 100% certitude that Kalisch is personally progressive and he's going to vote for the agenda. In other words, let's say the Tribune is false. It was written, it was a stupidity. But he said all these things before. He didn't just say it there. So here's the thing, Rabbi Say, let me explain to you where this is going. Number 1, I need help, and I'm asking, Mila Hashem Elai. I'm asking the same thing. Just like this radio program is vital, and I need people just to support. Don't give me a penny, but let me pay for the radio program. The same way now, we have to call the people in the 50th district in Chicago. We got to call them. That means Rev Soloveitchik of Brisk has to get a phone call, and the Mamala Mokim of Rev Avram Chaim Levin, Yibod L'Chaim Tov Maruchim, the new Rosh Hashiva Rabbi Levin has to get a call, and Rabbi Keller has to get a call, and the head of the CRC, Yonah Rees, the modern Ortho rabbi, he has to get a call, and the head Dayan, I forget his name, who married Savitsky, Rev Gedalia Schwartz, Ab Bezdin of the Moderna, he has to get a call. And every single person in the district. Now, let's say it's going to cost $500. We have to raise the money. We have to raise the money to give a robocall so that every frum person in that entire community should get a call directing them to a website that we're going to open about Aguda and Kalisch. That either he has to be fired, he has to resign, he has to apologize. Aguda has to start teaching us morals and values. I want to tell you, I haven't said it until now. But I've said many times before, and I hold this up proudly, the Jewish press, Rabbi say, the Jewish press this week, I'm a subscriber, I said if a person has no money, they can take my money on my achrayas and they can support the Jewish press to buy a subscription. Why? Somebody on my chat said, there people, they support Ora with the Gittin and phony Agunis and their modern Orthodox. What they don't know is that since Elliot Resnick took over the editorialship, it has moved significantly to the right. They have Divrei Torah from Rav Avigdor Miller, from Rav Hershel Schachter, Rabbi Rafal Fuchs, he might even be a son-in-law. He wrote today an article. He writes, what is this article about? By the way, this is my article in the Jewish Press this week. I'm just holding this up. And I advise people to see it. They can get it on the internet. This is the article. It's on page 10, I think, or something like that. Representative Kalisch must resign. And I said that the Tanzanian Galach, the cardinal, said, we are not going to accept money from an international aid food. It's waiting there to give them tons of food. And the people are starving. But they want us to acknowledge any aspect of the homosexual militant social agenda. We'd rather starve and be loyal to our God. Compare that to what Rav David Zweigel said. Elected official, you have to go. But the Shor Mitzion Balacha told me that how do you measure Chil Hashem? You measure Chil Hashem by the baseline of what the righteous Gentiles are doing. So they're calling to excommunicate Cuomo. They're incensed. They're talking like. And on the same time, look at this. Not only did the Orthodox Jews have the Jerry Nadlers, before that they had Ted Weiss, a big Oiswerf, who's mamish, an Ungarish Russian Marusha, Pushet. In Chicago, look what they had. Silverstein and Lang both had to basically checked out because of sexual improprieties. This is the guy he's making deals with. This is the guy, these sexual improprieties are deciding, you know who we can trust to push this stupid homosexual and abortion agenda? Mark Kalisch. They dealt with him for years. Does this Kalisch have any values? So this is I want to advise you to read this article that the Jewish press had the guts. Remember, it's a week afterwards. Yated already had him on the front page. This is all over Political Tribune. Did they write a word? Did Eckstein, that prostitutes are values, did he write a word in Yeshiva World News about it? This is prostitution by omission. There's sins of commission, actively and omission. How do you leave this out? How does Mishpotim magazine, Benjamin Rose, I'm calling you out. You're going to have to give a din v'cheshbon. This schmutz, you wrote a puff piece in Mishpacha. Are you fixing it up? It's a week later. Another Mishpacha came out. Nothing. The Haimi Hamaydia, Ruth Lichtenstein, shame on you. These people are poisoning our well springs. Rabbi Zweibel is busy saying, you have to do is like the visual. And the Haredi, he's gewaldig. Is it any wonder why he feels he told you so? He said the PR person told him not to do it. And what else? And what did his rabbinic advisor tell him to do? Did he give him a mussar about Chil Hashem?
Well, so, after he told me that his trusted PR person advised him that he can't make a retraction, right. So I asked him, well, did you ask a Das Torah or some Rav about whether you should make a retraction? He says, yes. So what did he say? I asked him. He says, well, he basically said that he could just let it die out on its own, like Gamze Yavor. Those are the words he used. Okay, so there was a gentleman who was under the bed. I don't know if he's under the bed of Rav or something. A famous Gemara. It says a lashon, Toirihi v'limar nitzarach. But this is a famous Rebbeinu Shalom. It says Sha'ala v'cha v'yagetcha zikenecha v'yamrulach. That means they're not doing us a favor, the Gedalim, the Zekene, the Zikne Ador, if they answer our questions. There's a question here for the Gedalim they have to answer. Now, we were allowed to surmise, who do you think that Simcha Kalisch asked? Not Simcha, forgive me again, Marky. Who did Mark Kalisch ask? I didn't ask him and he didn't tell me.
Right.
So I'm not going to venture.
Okay, but I want to tell you, I want to give a guess in public of who he is. And if he didn't ask, I apologize, and let that rabbi come out and say that he's not, that this is not true. You know what? A few days ago, when he had to do some damage control. So he sent out an email to hundreds or thousands of knackers and people to try to explain to them. In that email, he said the following: "Oh, I never wrote this. Lang wrote this thing with this guy, and I was stupid that I checked out. I signed off on it without seeing it." Which, mamish, is a chamor. How can we trust his judgment in anything with just such a stupid thing? Would he buy a house like that? Would he buy a house without having a lawyer check the contract? So he's dealing with kvod shamayim. I know he's being dealt with on subjects of geyachts and abortion with tzich baby killing, and he doesn't bother to read it. How do you trust such an idiot? He would never do that if he had to invest $500 in the stock. He would do that. Now, so what's the point over here? So he writes, he says, I'm the one who's in pain. He says, it doesn't matter. He says, I'm the one who's suffering. I'm the one on the street. People are saying we should take your kids out of yeshiva. He makes himself, so it's all about him. He doesn't speak about kvod shamayim, God. I can't sleep at night because I feel so guilty, right? But then he says, he goes like this, shh. The Novominsker Rebbe, shh, graduated college, shh, in political science. And he's from Chicago because he used to be Rosh Skokie. So he knows. So I have agreed to consult with the Novominsker Rebbe. So if he put this out in a widely distributed email, I got it from a few sources, different sources, and he wrote, "You're allowed to spread this around, just don't give it to the media," or something like that, or the politicians, because they're bad. Maybe he looked in the mirror and he realized that he's a politician now. The way that he got that chair, was it like an Erlich Rov, etc., or did he get it through shenanigans and backroom disgusting dealings? I'll give your wife $2,000. You know what the papers wrote about him? I'm getting the articles tomorrow. One of the papers did investigative research, and they say, it's very strange, Simcha Kalisch is a lobbyist. And one of the main places he lobbied, besides around the country, but he lobbied principally in Springfield, Illinois, for the gaming commission, the gaming industry. You know what the gaming industry is? It's gamblers. Mm-hmm. You know what that is? That's like when they're making a Monticello gambling. What does it bring? It brings broken families. It brings lack of shalom bayis. It brings a lack of money. On the periphery, people are oivers nus, narayas, prostitution. How does a frumma yid who wears a hat, how does he become for the gaming industry? Als for geld. You know why? Because he went to the orientation by Rabbi Zweibel and company in the Aguda Yisrael. Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, Rav Ruderman, they'd all be proud, or Rav Aaron, the Isha Emes, they would all be proud of this. We get what we deserve. The question is if Rabbi Levin and Rabbi Keller, who was a Moller Stark Hashkafista, if they're going to stand up and say, Dayenu, fair, enough already. So they're saying that Lang is now switching positions. Lang is doing a switch. This is what they write in the papers. That means Lang was a representative and he's becoming a lobbyist. And Kalisch is a lobbyist who's becoming a representative. And they're intimating that this was the deal. And they said, the reporter told me that he got an anonymous call or something that told him a deal or something like that. We'll see the reportage, that a deal was struck where Kalisch would steer business to Lang that he can no longer do in Illinois. Kalisch will still lobby in different states. You understand? So even if this is not true, remember the story with the judge and the Chavetz Chaim? They came in to save the yeshiva guy, and they said, Your Honor, the Chavetz Chaim, if he would take a postage stamp, and if it wasn't stamped, he would rip it up. He would do this tzitkus and that tzitkus. And the judge said to the attorney for the yeshiva boy, "You're telling me this man is like a demigod. Do you think I believe this? Can it's possible to believe such a thing?" So what did they answer? What did the lawyer say? The lawyer said, "Listen, Your Honor, all I know is one thing. They don't say such things about you and I. So he must be a very big person. In other words, et cetera, et cetera. So what are they in the media and the people who read it, the Gentiles, The Freie Jews who don't love the Orthodox and think that the Orthodox are connivers and Madoffs and slimy and this, that. What do they think when they read all this stuff, even if it's not MS about if you would be a Chavetz Chaim above reproach? He was talking in Mishpotim magazine how he's emulating, he doesn't want to compare himself, he's emulating the Mahalach of the Pnei Yeshua. You hear this? The Pnei Yeshua he throws in there. You understand? So I just, it's beyond. But what I'm telling you is like this. We are going to try to have a website, and we're going to keep on reporting. We're not going to stop doing that. We're going to keep on reporting the Kalisch, the embarrassment. For instance, was my friend Yerucham Silber or any lobbyist, Lefkowitz, Bennett, Goldberg, whoever, Ostreicher, whatever, Obermeister, whatever his name is, was anybody on the day of the horrific vote? I spoke to Rabbi Yerucham Silber, my friend, a few days before the vote. I told him, can you speak to Simrowitz? Can you speak to Daniel Rosenthal, the Oistrov, low-life, black yarmulke, hat-wearing Jew who's so strong with the Chazak organization? He's such a fine person. Rabbi Welcher of Queens. I heard he asked you, Shilas. He voted for the Ritzicha bill that everyone's cursing out Cuomo. Did anybody say a word yet from the rabbinate? A word to this Oistrov Rosenthal. Feh, I used to live in that district as a kid. An embarrassment. I'm telling you, Rabbi Say, I say a stipulation in davening. That means the destroyers from you. For Oivim, the people who plan bad for you. The Chazal are talking about people, possibly like the Avi Weisses, the Chayvei Torahs, the low-life Simrowitzes, but they're talking more than that. The Rosenthals, the Oisovs. I don't want to curse them. So I say a stipulation. I'm going to say it again and again. If this is what God means by V'lam Alshinim, if he means Zaydim, then have it in mind. Have it in mind as a stipulation that Hashem should be Menaka, the Schil Hashem. So we're going to have a website. And we're going to raise somehow the $500, whatever it takes, if it's possible to make robocalls. If an Orthodox list exists of the voters, we are going to make B'li Neder. I don't care if I have to go into debt another $500 of my credit card. We're going to make robocalls there. And we're going to direct people to know the Chil Hashem. And we're going to keep on coming back to Aguda. And we're going to send emails with the articles to the Gedolei Yisrael and to Rabbanim. Kalisch! We're not finished. We're just getting started. We're just getting started. We're going to dig in. We're going to dig until everybody knows the chutzpah. This is a teaching moment that God has given us. His name is Silverstein, or whatever his heck was his name. That the guy who gave his proxy. There's a silver lining here. Mark Kalisch, mark my words. We have now exposed that the Emperor Aguda, the top leadership, the Rabbanim don't have hands on. They don't know what's going on there, and the lunatics are running the asylum. And I don't think there was anybody even there. I spoke to Rabbi Yerucham the week before to lobby, and he tells me, don't worry, Simcha Eichenstein to vote. I needed Yerucham, the lobbyist, to tell me Simcha Eichenstein is going to vote against it. And Simcha Eichenstein doesn't have the decency, the seichel, the zidit shoiva einikel with the bekasha. He said to somebody, the Rabbunim have to speak out, the Rabbunim have to speak out against the bad bill. He only has to vote against it. He doesn't have to, because if he speaks against it, he won't be able to get an Estan Zoyne. They might be angry. So when everybody on talk radio is speaking, and the Kalisch is speaking about communicating, this Orthodox Jew couldn't get up and describe a baby who survives a botched abortion. We should kill him. He could have used this as a teaching moment. He could have said it in the assembly. He could have said it in the press conference. He could have said, if you give now a pill, the boyfriend gives a pill to his girlfriend or his wife, to make a spontaneous abortion, so it's not criminal anymore, abortion, so it's not murder like it used to be. It's not even an assault because he didn't punch her in the stomach. So what is it if she takes a pill? He might get away with it totally. So much for woman's choice. She wants to keep it. He gives a poison pill. You understand? This is Ritzicha. It's going to lead to assisted suicide and euthanasia and pulling plugs from the Yidden. And Simcha Eichenstein couldn't speak out. He couldn't say to people, you know, the first step is they come after the babies. about to be born with dilated mothers, like the Virginia governor. The next thing is the baby's laying on the table. They just have a conference. If they want to keep it alive, they can withhold medical treatment. The next thing is they encourage assisted suicide. Voted for a bill with a proxy, with a heta, with a stupidity, a lack of cheshbon. Simcha Eichstein voted for a bill which failed also. The two Simchas made a bechia. They voted for a bill that the benefit of that bill is going to ultimately be to the detriment. To the detriment. It's going to increase killing. It's going to increase a cheapening of life. Mark my words. And then the next thing is going to be old people. There'll be mamish people pulling the plug. They're doing it in the hospitals now for years already. Still, I hate they're doing it. So now Simcha Eichstein is not intelligent enough to be able to say, you start with the babies, preborn, then postborn, and then you're going to kill all the people. Why couldn't he say that? Ooh, you might have lost some money, you might have turned off. We have to give a big klatcherai. People were upset they didn't vote for the murder bill. This is what we're dealing with. So we have the unholy triumvirate. We have Chicago, represented by the biggest lowlifes, sexual improprieties, cutting deals with Mark Kalisch. The sexual abusers are cutting deals with Mark Kalisch. And the Goyish newspapers and reporters are asking questions about it. Okay, that's what we have. Before he even said one view on the moral issues. You understand? We have to strike. Because some Adam Godol, could it be the Novominska? Gamze Yavor. Wow, such breite places. Ma koich the Tera Adifes. Ma was beautiful. If the Novominska was not the secret person, despite what he wrote in his own email, I apologize, but it's not a full apology. I publicly asked the Novominskas, dun, 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 the Rosh Agudas Yisrael. If you're the Rosh, rush. Why don't you go and be in a rush to clean up the Chil Hashem and issue statements and position papers like they used to do in the Jewish Observer in the 70s and 80s. Rav Hutner used to write. Rav Nachman Bullman used to write. Rabbi Keller Zolazai Gesund Yibad L'chaim used to write. Rav Gifter used to write. There used to be Hashkafa. Where's the Hashkafa here, Rabbi Perlau? Where's the Hashkafa? Nothing. Silence. So if he did ask him, if he didn't ask him, either way, this is unacceptable. You have an achrayas to answer us. Not you, the 11, everybody. If not, what's zikanecha? Ridiculous. Yeah, please.
You talk about the value of life being devalued. You know, I once saw a documentary that I'll never forget, that Hitler, Yamach Shemoy, you know, before they started the concentration camps with the killing the Yidden,
right,
he had a euthanasia program for sick and handicapped people. And the same doctors that were involved with that program that, you know, were used to killing people, those were the first doctors that were used in the concentration camps to perform the medical experiments.
So let's give a big hand for Simcha Eichenstein, because he voted right way, and he goes along with the desensitizing. In other words, there's a sin of commission, you commit a sin, and there's a sin of omission by not doing. He thinks he's Potter. Eichenstein, you listen here. I told you that night before you declared. You were nice enough to call me. You think you're going to play this game, Eichenstein? I promised that I'm going to tell on every vote what you do. He voted the wrong way on an abortion bill already, on a bill that was, there were 3 bills. One's called the health proxy bill, and he said he was doing it to help some frum ladies. So to help some frum ladies, maybe ahina hair. Oh, you know what it was? He voted for, listen to the bill he voted for, the Reproductive Freedom Non-Discrimination Act, which basically means, doesn't say the word abortion in the bill, but it was linked together with the same sponsors and the same package with the Ritzicha bill. So you know what it was for. So that means like this. If a lady goes, Miss Smith, and she works in Beis Yaakov, 5th grade teacher, and she has an English teacher, so she's not covered by the religious thing, and she has an abortion, and the next day the kid comes in a week later and she's missing a whole stomach, the kids say, Mrs. Smith, oh, you had a baby? He said, no, I had an abortion. What's an abortion? Well, you see, you take the machine, you drill it out, you give poison, you rip out the piece of the baby. I did that because it's a mother's right to choose, a woman's right to choose. It's my body. So then Rabbi Frank, the principal of Beis Yaakov, comes over and says, Mrs. Smith, I'm afraid you're going to have to leave. She says, I'm going to have to leave? I'm going to bankrupt your whole place. I'm going to sue you all. Don't you tell me I have to leave. Because Simcha Eichenstein and Simcha Felder voted for a bill that's made. Now, if he doesn't have enough seichel to understand, despite the Orwellian way they write it, that's the purpose, and he doesn't have the olive base that I told him, you have to see who sponsors the bill and in what context it is. See, he's still staying by his. So I'm explaining to you, he's going to have to give it to Cheshbon. Simpler. It's not acceptable. You're going to start to speak out, or I'm going to dog you. As long as God gives me the koyach, I'm going to keep on mentioning these things. Yes, sir.
Well, how about if a single lady teacher in a Beis Yaakov comes in one day visibly pregnant, and the kids know
right.
She's not married. She's
defended by the
what's going on
right.
here?
Exactly.
Can't fire her.
Exactly. But that's the same Simcha Felder who, when you complained that he brought in the lesbian Christine Quinn as a role model to the Beis Yaakov, the Chamorim, the Beis Yaakov, took her in. You understand? And when you called up on the Zeb Brenner show to complain to Felder, what did he tell you? You remember? Shall I remind you? I'll tell you what he told you. He says, if you don't like it, take your daughter out of the school. You remember that?
Yes. He was on a talk
By
show.
the way, I confronted Felder about that to his face when he's running for senator. And he said, you're absolutely right. It was wrong. And he kissed me. Okay. And he said, people like you, Yehuda Levin, keep us honest. I don't care if they understand or not. I'm not trying to win a popularity contest here. Now, I want you to know something. They just passed the bill that everybody's screaming about, the amendment to, they made a bill, you hear, that from now on they can go, people who were molested, there's 18 months that people from 40, 50 years ago, they can come and they can sue. And Eichenstein voted against it because he said it could bankrupt the yeshivas. Okay, the Catholic Church was upset about it. But I want you to know a different part of the story that nobody knows. So the Republicans, last year, when they controlled the Senate, they offered an amendment to this bill that passed in the Senate. It said, we are taking away the statute of limitations, not for civil penalties for guilt. We're taking it away for perpetrators. That means if a manovel molested a kid and is 50 years later, he's guilty if he gets caught 50 years later if the person had the guts to complain. And guess what? The Democratic Assembly didn't want to go along with it. Now, this year, right now, when they were passing this bill about civil Geldsachen, once again, the Republicans offered an amendment. 20 Republicans voted for the Senate, but the Democrats said it's not pertaining, it's not this, it's not that. That means the Russia, Marusha, Mamza Democrats in the Assembly, and they don't care about the kids. One of the things they care about, they cared, then why don't you put the perpetrators in jail to scare off more perpetrators by saying there's never going to be a statute of limitations. A perpetrator can be 80 years old, like a Nazi, and we'll drag him away. That's what they should have voted for. They're so concerned. But no. You know why? Because they like the idea of bankrupting the religious institutions for civil suits. That way they smack around the Agudas and the Yeshivas and Lahavdil, the Catholic churches, and they're even more strung out to Kifa. That's the agenda. You hear what's going on, Rabbi? Say that's the agenda. Now, let's see. By the way, Israel's supposed to have next year. We're so proud of Israel, a nation among the nations. Yes. The Eurovision Song Festival, that's some kind of a transsexual novel from Israel once won a few years ago in Europe. So they are zeicha that Israel's having it this year. So you know what? A bunch of ultra-liberal Sinai Israel Zionists and Jews probably, they're making a big thing in the BBC that they shouldn't have the Eurovision thing in Israel. I'm so sad. You understand, the Eurovision, they should sing the Menuvel songs and come strut their stuff half naked and everything else. It's a bracha that the anti-Semitim don't want it in Israel. I give them a bracha, they should be matzliach. And let the Fashalten, the Oisva, culturated Tzionim who want this and feel proud about it, let them plot. God is doing us a favor. You understand? Ridiculous idiots. Roger Stone, it's terrible. They came with 17 trucks and they dragged him out in shackles. He's not a physical threat, Roger Stone. Let me tell you about Roger Stone. When Palladino was on the right side running for governor against Cuomo and he's speaking out against the Gayachts, then Roger Stone, who he's paying who knows tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to advise him, Roger Stone, who marched shirtless around 10 years ago in the gay parade, Roger Stone told him, don't listen to Yehuda Levin and those anti-gay rabbis. You got to embrace the Gayachts. So I went down the next day, and Palladino was going to throw us under the bus. So I went in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral and had 30 people at a press conference and said, I'm withdrawing my endorsement from Palladino. He folded like a cheap camera. So Hashem takes time. I don't have any Rahmanis. Roger Stone might actually be right in this case, but he's a maneuver, arrogant, oisrav, pro-Gayas garbage. And I can't be sad when I see Mishpot is being done with him. Mueller is doing all the garbage. Okay, just an aside. Speaking of that, Dolan, the cardinal, got so incensed when I made a press conference outside because I said, I got to get off the air. Rabbi say it's over until next week. This is Yehuda Levin. Asking each and every one of you. Thanking Reb Shlomo Winter for being here. Learn from Shlomo how to be an askin. Everybody can do a tremendous thing. You see, Kalisch is miyachas with him. He spoke to God will be Yisrael. Everybody can do this, and that's why I wanted to have him here. Rabbi say, until next week, we have a lot of stuff. Get on my WhatsApp chats. You'll hear a lot of stuff this week. 718-469-6999. You get on the WhatsApp chat. You'll see all kinds of stuff. Follow us on the YouTube, 1111. Tune in, spread the word about the program. Until next week at this time, Rabbi Say, a guten Tamid, and we shall overcome. Gamzelo Ya'avar Novominsker Rebbe, until somebody says something. Thank you.